lighting, action. Welcome to my new video where I'll be showing you the different cinematic lighting techniques that will elevate your cinematography. Let's get started. So here are my 3 lighting layouts I would use for a cinematography scene. You could also use this in real life. A lot of people use these techniques in real life and get great pictures or cinematography videos or movies really. Here are some lighting methods that you could use, or lighting layouts you could call it. So the first one is lighting from the back of your character and or object. So you have your character right here and the light is right behind it, giving your character a silhouette. The next lighting is down lighting. So it's very basic. You have your character right here and then the lighting over here and it emits down on your character. This is a really cinematic lighting. I really like this one. It's one of my favorites. It's also great for a lot of physiques, you could say. A lot of bodybuilders would use down lighting. Down lighting is really great because it pops a lot of these curves that you have on your character. I'm going from top to bottom. That makes sense. Next one would be side. Side lightings are pretty cinematic. I really like side lightings. Lightings from the side only, where it's showing half of your character and an object. So it's coming in like this and your character is like half lit up. This makes it really cinematic. And if you can combine some of these together, you get a really good final touch. For example, what I would combine is a top lighting and then maybe a back lighting. Or you could do a top lighting or a side lighting, or you can just mix it all up. So now our scene is almost ready. We can now start on the second most important thing, which is the lighting. The lighting can make a lot of difference. And if you want to have good cinematography, you're going to have to do a lot of good lighting. The position of the light, where it is from your character, can make a big difference. The brightness of your light can make a big difference. The tint, the radius, there's a lot that can really impact your whole scene, which is why I think lighting is the second most important thing when it comes to cinematography. So the lighting that I'm trying to achieve in this shot is more of a silhouette on the back of the character as he's walking forward towards the camera. So I'm not going to put a lot of light facing towards the character. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this left light over. As you see, the character is now getting darker. I have a light to show our broken up car. And the light in the back, I'm going to click on it and I'm going to edit the radius over light so it lights up more of the ground around it. And let's turn up the radius. Now, for whatever reason, our fire simulation isn't emitting much light. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our own artificial light. So let's add a point light and we're just going to simply make it red. And let's spread out our radius also. So one problem with the Niagara fire simulation we have running right now is the fire is not emitting, it's not emitting light to the scene. So we're gonna add our own artificial light. So we're just gonna add a simple point light, put it in there, and we're gonna feed it a noise. So a noise is a texture that is computer generated. Noise is found in almost every software there is on the market. It's really useful to a lot of things. In this, we will use Perlin noise to control the frequency intensity of our light that will be acting as our fire. So the reason why we're adding noise to our light is that fire, when it burns, it doesn't stay the same intensity. It always changes. It almost flickers. So I'm going to have this light over here do a flicker as the character is walking towards the camera. So what I have to do is right click and I'm gonna have to unlock this. So go to groups and ungroup, and then now you can grab your point light and drag it over to your timeline. And then we're also going to drag our fire light in our timeline. And so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna keyframe the intensity. So let's go where I want the flicker to happen. So I would like it to happen around frame 30. Put a keyframe at frame 30. Go over 2 frames and let's set it to 0. After you put it to 0, let's go a couple frames forward and then let's set it back to 12. So now we are keyframing. What is a keyframe, you may ask? Keyframe is an animation. This is how animation works. It's not only in Unreal Engine, it's in Cinema 4D, Blender, After Effects, Premiere Pro, and a lot of apps. That's how our hero moves right now. It's using keyframes. Each individual bone of our hero Every second it has a keyframe, tells it where to go next. Or you could say it tells it what value to put in next, and you give it that value. So for example, if we have a value keyframe of 0 and over here we have a value keyframe of 100, how will this work is it will build from 0 all the way up to 100 till it gets over here. This is linear keyframing, you could call it, because it's just straight. Now we get really complicated when we add curves. For example, easy ease, it will do something a lot smoother. Instead of going straight forward, it will do a curve. So it will go fast, slow, then fast, depending on how you change your keyframe. I won't be doing that. I will just use simple linear since it works for this. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy and paste these. So highlight them and Control C, Control V, and right here also. Now I pasted the other two close so that the light would flicker really fast. So now we can start with the fire, and we're gonna give it a noise so it looks like actual fire. So let's drop down, go to intensity, right click, override with float Berlin noise. So we can play with the noise by right clicking and going to Berlin noise channel. For me, what works for me is for this, I'm gonna go with 0, amplitude of 2, frequency of 4. See it now affecting the light. So now what I'm gonna do is you can duplicate it if you like. You can drag it over. So now we have our firelight and the flicker lights set up. So let's go over to our street light, the one that flickers. Let's go down to volumetric scattering, and you want to turn this all the way down. Otherwise, when the flicker happens, let's see what it does. And if you like that effect, you can go with it, but personally I'm gonna have it go all the way down to where it's barely noticeable. So that's all the lights we have to play with. So here's how it looks right now. As you see, it doesn't look too bad. But what we can do is we can cheat. So we can add our own artificial light. Go over to the lights and let's add a rectangle light. And then we're gonna put this rectangle light over behind our character. And then also let's turn down the volumetric scattering. So the fun part about CGI and creating your art in all digitally in your computer is that you can have a lot of options when it comes to cheating. What I mean by cheating is you can cheat a lot of lights in your CG films, videos, renders, whatever. So why do I call this cheating is because you're not adding an actual light to the scene. I can't have a light behind me like I did in the character lighting me up. You would have to see the light unless I make it invisible somehow. That's like one of the cool things about CG instead of doing this in real life. Here's how it looks with the light, and here's how it looks without this artificial light. I'm going to keep it like this, and I'm going to keep the intensity over at 4. Alright, and then one more final step for the rest of the lights. I want the scattering intensity to be turned up, except the lights that have flickering on it. Alright, so now we're pretty much done with the lights. So congrats, we have made it through the lights. Now let's start with our camera movements. And for this, we will do 2 shots. We will do 2 cameras.